Imagine you receive a gift. Perhaps it's a superpower. Now picture it in your mind, a gift that gives you a heightened sensitivity to space, to architecture, and to form. A gift that allows you to see other worlds beyond your five senses and to see and perceive the fractal geometries that underpin the nature of this reality. A gift that opens up your creativity and allows you to see our fundamental, non-dual nature. But in exchange for this gift, you have to spend many months in a cold, white, windowless hospital room while spending weeks in a coma, have holes drilled into your skull, and have countless seizures, and you lose your prior memory. Essentially a reset or a systems reboot. Well, that was my experience with encephalitis and meningitis at age 14. And for me, it was the first time I realized that the spaces that we inhabit can either empower us or they could disempower us. And it left me with a very deep curiosity of the nature of this reality and a desire to express these other worlds I was inhabiting through drawing and painting. I just couldn't help but feel a deep sense of peace and harmony. This, although the experience left me a deep curiosity of the nature of this reality, and the desire to express these other worlds through drawing and painting, I couldn't help but feel lost for myself. So during my young architectural years, I explored sacred temples and studied with indigenous tribes to understand how and why they designed using these patterns in their art and their architecture, because these were the same patterns I witnessed in my near-death experience. And like our ancestors who built these structures, I was inspired by fractals. Now, fractals are infinitely complex, self-embedded patterns that are found in nature and the cosmos at all scales. And this left me to wonder, how was it that across continents and cultures, our ancestors who built these structures designed using these patterns? Perhaps they were onto something or connected somehow, or perhaps they were even on something. When I was younger, I felt this drawing and painting, it led me to pursue a three-letter word for disappointing my parents at the time, which is art. And that eventually led to architecture, because I've always felt like our homes are temples, and the sooner that we think about them as such, the happier and the healthier we will be. Do you know that according to the EPA, the average American spends 93% of our lives indoors? Don't you feel more collaborative, innovative, and productive in spaces that are open and connected in nature? That's because spending time in nature is like returning to our source, a source from which we're inseparable. And so, while exploring these sacred temples and understanding these spaces, I went in and wanted to understand these spaces further. I wanted to understand why these spaces were built in these ways. And so I noticed that in these spaces, we feel that they're designed using sacred geometries and fractals and designed oriented on ley lines, these ancient temples, mosques, and cathedrals. And these are all designed to improve our sense of balance, peace, and harmony. And so I wanted to discover, how do you create spaces that improve and connect people with not just nature, but with each other? And so this idea of fractals, this idea that we're all interconnected, stuck with me throughout my life and career, and I incorporated this message of interconnectedness throughout my art and throughout my career. But what if we could incorporate these messages into contemporary architecture and design? At my office, we believe that designing for the future means incorporating all principles, past and present, of creating empowering spaces, like using permaculture to connect with the food that we eat, or using regenerative design principles and sustainable design principles to connect with nature that's around us, or even using wabi-sabi simplicity. Think of the materials and the textures that are in your homes, and the smells and the aromas. All these parts can empower our spaces and could empower a sense of wellness and well-being. But during the short time we have here, I'll just give you a few examples of how you can empower your homes and communities for a more regenerative future. One is to embed triggers into your homes. For example, I had a client that was going through a challenging period, and we designed a fractal wall installation that had a hidden message that said, "I am powerful." So every time she went into her home, she was hit with this message of empowerment. But we could all embed these messages into our homes, whether it's through furniture or art or a piece of jewelry. That's actually why we designed jewelry using lab-created stones, or furniture or art using recycled and reclaimed materials to bring attention to product life cycle and process. And that's why we created a platform called Thosine, where you could enter your date, time, and location of birth, and using astrological and Vedic algorithms and a unique parametric modeling tool, you can create pieces in real time that are triggers that you could bring with you wherever you go. And to empower our community, we could develop non-dual habits. And what I mean by that is we can support each other like a grove of trees where stronger trees will send nutrients to weaker trees. By lifting each other up and working together, we can create an empowering future together. And part of some of the ways we could do this is to design more public spaces to encourage social interaction, or perhaps building more affordable housing for people. Or support local artists and artisans that create unique, one-of-a-kind pieces that are meant to last. Think mid-century, for example. Now, being in this magical island of Ibiza, I've applied these principles to our showroom here to create a healing space of sorts. And we're working to scale this idea of regenerating and restoring old structures and revitalizing local communities. And we've partnered with BioReset Medical Clinic on this to bring regenerative medicine to people for healing on a cellular level. All this while working to restore and regenerate our natural environments. But when we talk about restoration, we have to talk about the materials we use. For example, we're building this regenerative helix bungalow that can be assembled and reassembled all within 48 hours using a natural composite fiber material that's meant to last. So when you design and build, think longevity top of mind. And when you develop, why not do it in a way that encourages biodiversity? For example, we're currently working on an ecological project in Iceland where there are no trees as the Vikings cut them down for ships and homes many years ago. Our goal in that project is to plant over 25,000 trees to restore and regenerate the natural ecosystem while uplifting the local community there. All these examples aside, though, as technology's progressed, we've almost lost sight of this interconnectedness of being, this idea of non-duality, these ideas of fractals. Fractals are infinitely complex, recursive, self-similar patterns found in nature and the cosmos at all scales. It's what links us all. It's almost like we see each other as separate trees in the forest, especially during times of such divisiveness. Think about a grove of trees that send nutrients. Stronger trees will send nutrients to weaker trees to support the system as a whole. So close your eyes for one moment and imagine a city or a community of the future that is alive with life and enveloped by nature, a city supporting biodiversity and lifting people up at all stages and all levels of life. Now, let's try to open up our eyes and make this dream a reality together, as separation is only an illusion of the mind. Thank you.